So I'm Eren, otherwise known as Eren Jam on Instagram. I'm a street photographer from London. I only started photography because I wanted to find out more about London. So it was more about exploring the city than it was actual photography, because it was mostly urbex and landscapes and cityscapes and, you know, just typical urban shots with wide angle lenses. And then at a certain point I was out shooting and I was watching like videos on YouTube of street photographers, and it just looked really interesting. So I thought, I'm living in the city, so it was like a natural fit for what I was doing. At no point did I think this was going to be what I do full time. At the time I was working doing football journalism and kind of some random jobs, so it kind of just happened naturally, and at this point it's my full-time job. So no one in my family works in the creative field or is that creative. I was always pushed to do more academic stuff growing up, so it wasn't until my mid-20s where I really got into photography. And but growing up I loved film, and that was something that was always present, and I feel a lot of my style comes from that, and because I was constantly watching movies and stuff. And even now I have a big interest in making short films or film and stuff when I'm out, so I feel that was always the driver. Yeah, so this is Chinatown, Soho. There's one guy I caught here once, and he had like this triangle hat on. Yeah, it's like a pyramid on his head. I'll show you the picture. It's like he was in the news because like he's an interesting looking character. I think it turns out he thinks that the triangle hat or the pyramid hat gives him positive energy or something, or wards off the negative energy, something like that. Feel free. I feel like you can overshoot, so the time spent editing and just analyzing your own work is as important as shooting itself. So yeah, unless you like analyze your work and really see if it's good or what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong, you're never going to improve by just continually shooting. Yeah, I try to shoot 2 to 3 times a week, and I will plan it out in advance. So I'd be like, I don't know, I'm going to go to Soho on Tuesday, but I will change it depending on the weather. So if it's going to be, I don't know, a rainy night, I will change my plan, so I will be out that night. Yeah, I'm pretty loose with it, but I do try to get out 2 to 3 times a week for that same reason as I was saying earlier. Even now, like I feel if I don't shoot regularly, I stop seeing things, I stop seeing scenes. So in London it's got to be Soho, especially at nighttime. In London there isn't too many places at night you can shoot, so Soho, Chinatown, big favorites. And then during the daytime I really like the Barbican, so it's kind of I don't want to say underrated spot, but like especially tourists coming in, a lot of them don't know, but the Barbican's a good spot, especially on a sunny day. A lot of it is I would watch a film and then I'd want to recreate not individual scenes but the feeling of that scene, and that's kind of what inspired me to develop the style I have now. So it's more about recreating what I loved seeing in the streets. So because street photography it's a bit strange, like there's different forms of street photography. You can run after people and do street photography that way, but I like to create the scene and then wait for the right people to be in the scene, and for that scene to almost tell a story or convey some kind of emotion. Yeah, so probably the ones at the moment are In the Mood for Love, Chunking Express, Fallen Angels, so Wong Kar-wai films. They're the ones I normally get into, like phases where I really focus on a certain style. So at the moment, that's why I like, because I've been watching those films recently, so it's what inspires me. But it changes, so if I watch some different films or I see something else, my style will change over time. There wasn't an exact moment, but during COVID, it worked out pretty well, because I was receiving lots of jobs with photography, mostly because everyone was stuck at home. So lots of these brands needed like video content or photography content. So just doing that from home. And then a year or so of that, I was pretty confident I could do it full time going forward. But there wasn't like a single moment or something that happened or an event. It just evolved over time.
You want black and white?
Yeah, I like to shoot in black and white because sometimes I get distracted by the colors. So sometimes like the colors in the scene will be really interesting, but the composition won't be. So when I shoot in black and white, I'm only focusing on the composition, and then I know if the colors are good by looking at the scene. So one thing I hate about the X100, we're on 6 now, is it uses the old Fujifilm battery, and they don't last that long. I used to do it more. These days, I kind of see it as it's part of the scene, and if I don't want it there, I just kind of shoot it without it. But you know, sometimes it's annoying because you can find a good scene and there'll be, I don't know, a piece of paper in front of the door, and you may come back another day and it's not there. So I don't think there's anything wrong with removing things. I have more of an issue when things are added, or if by removing something you completely change the composition.
Right. No, I just mean like, let's see like a piece of trash on the ground.
That I'm fine with, to be honest. Like that, because the piece of trash could or could not be there. Like it's not a part of the scene. Like you could go and pick it up, but it's only really an issue when it really changes the composition or
add something that was never there.
Oh, that's the main one. If you add something that's not there, that's not cool. Yeah, I think we're really lucky to have it. I'm not negative on social media. I think before social media, in order to become a photographer, unless you knew the right people or in the right circles, it would have been very difficult. Whereas these days with social media, you can get your work out there to the whole world. I view it as a job, so I don't view social media as fun. It's more about like daily work. But yeah, I think it's a massive opportunity. Like, as I said, if we were born 20, 30 years ago even, these jobs would be nearly impossible unless we knew the right people. So YouTube was shortly after COVID. So I had a couple friends doing it, and namely this one over here. So it was actually more because I didn't like doing public speaking, or even just speaking in front of camera was quite difficult. So it kind of pushed me to learn a new skill, and I feel like that's been probably the number one benefit from it. Whereas these days, well, previously, if somebody, for example, a brand approached me and they were like, do a job speaking about whatever, I'd never done it, but these days I'm much more comfortable, and yeah, it just helps. When it's like this and it's like where there's no interesting light to work with, it's more about finding interesting characters and also interesting compositions. So well, on a street like this, full of interesting compositions of all the street art and the stuff like this with the colorful tiles. So it's more about just finding the right people to come into frame. So it's not as exciting as shoot when it's sunny or if it's nighttime. But you shouldn't not shoot because it's cloudy. Like, it's not really an excuse not to shoot.
Do you ever do black and white?
I do actually. I do some black and white. On days like this, that actually works better. And also find at nighttime it works really well too. But yeah, day like this, just experiment with different things like black and white, or hunt out different kind of compositions and stuff like that. Or you could, like, if you're in London or a city like this, you can just shoot in the underground. But yeah, you don't want to be like always basing your photography on the weather, because you never know how it's going to be. Yeah, especially when you're traveling too, because if you just get used to doing that and then you go to, a big trip to Tokyo or something, and suddenly it might be cloudy for a week. So if you're not used to shooting in those conditions, it'd be like a wasted week.
So what's the focal length on that? It's a 90?
So this is a 90, which is about a 60 on full frame. So good for getting textures and, well, on a day like this, when you're looking for characters and subjects. Hey, Roman, do you know what this is? What this little sign is? Because not auto focusing.
Yeah, it's a manual focus. So you put it in the...
What the fuck did I do? That's not it. I can just back button focus, is fine for now, I guess, but cannot. Well, hold up. Oh, there we go. Focus. There we go.
I remember my first medium format.
One city for the rest of my life. It'd be Tokyo. Tokyo, even compared to London, it's so big, and unlike, well, in London you just have, for example, you can only shoot nights mostly in Soho, let's say. Whereas in Tokyo, there's like 10 different locations you can go, and they're all a bit different. So it's a lot more varied and a lot bigger. So if there was one city I could shoot in, it would be Tokyo. Potentially working on a book from Japan, so nighttime photography in Japan. But into the new year, I just want to travel more, visit more locations, especially in East Asia, so maybe Hong Kong, China. Mostly just to travel and shoot. That's my main aim for the next year. Just be consistent. Like, nothing beats shooting regularly and then reviewing your work, analyzing your own work, and then going out to shoot again. Like, it doesn't matter what camera you buy or how many videos you watch, the actual act of shooting is going to make you better, and you can't beat just repetition and doing it over and over again. So again, a bit like the films I watch, I go through phases of like really getting into specific photographer's work. So at the moment it's probably Alex Webb. A couple of his books, just pretty amazing and inspiring. Also Ernst Haas, I like his work, especially in the cities. Off the top of my head, those two probably, especially from the old, the older school ones.
Right. What are you using for gear? What's your most used lens?
So usually I'm using the Fujifilm X-T5 or X100, and the lens choice kind of depends on what I'm going for. If I want to capture more stories and like people in interesting locations, it'll be a 20. Let him go past. Yeah, if I'm capturing more people and stories, it'd be a 23 or the 35. Or if I'm going for more details or kind of abstract shots, then it'll be 56mm on Fuji or maybe the 90. A guy escaped. Alright, how do I change the shutter speed on this one?
How do I change the shutter speed?
It's got menu, then what does it do? There we go. So the first one will probably be this one here. I shot this on the London Underground, and I was actually just heading, I think it was an event in Central, and at the last minute I took my camera with me, and the reason I like it is because it just proves to myself the reason why I should bring my camera everywhere. Even though I had no business carrying the camera that night, there was no need for it. Yeah, this was just shot on the London Underground, slightly slow shutter speed, and just got the guy right in between the two windows. So that's two trains going past at the same time, and then that's just some guy in an overcoat standing at the far end of the platform.
When was that?
So this was shot around 2 years ago, I think, 2 or 3 years ago. Can't remember exactly, but it was around then. So the second one, so the reason I like this one, and I talked about this earlier, there's a film called In the Mood for Love, and I'd literally watched it maybe a week before, and then I came across this scene in Central, and it kind of really looked like one of the scenes from the film. So when I saw it, I kind of spent a good 15-20 minutes just lining it up and capturing the guy with the red background. Yeah, I just really like it for that reason. And then the third one I selected is this one here, taken in Soho, and well, this one's all about the subject and the colors. So the subject has this pyramid hat on. I don't know why he's got that on, but it looks cool. And just in the setting with a neon on the back, I just really like the, I don't know, the feeling of the shot, the emotion, I'd say. But yeah, it's one of my favorites too. He is like, I wouldn't say a celebrity, but he's kind of known among photographers in London because he wears the triangle hat. And if I remember correctly, there's actually an article about him in a newspaper. And the reason I think the reason he wears it is it brings in positive energy or it rejects negative energy, one of the two. But yeah.